Hey there, geeks and geekettes. I'm the Bearded Geek, and this is the Friday the 13th remake in defense of. Let's go. So, Friday the 13th, the remake was made in 2009. And to say it gets a bad rap would be an understatement. But I'm here to defend it because I think, personally, it's a fucking good film. Now, horror remakes, absolutely awful. All of them, aren't they? No. In fact, there have been a handful of terrific remakes to classic horror films over the years. And horror fans, every time the word remake is used, start screaming and crying and bitching and moaning without looking at the product because it says remake. A remake will be blindly hated as soon as it's announced across the internet. And even if the film does eventually get released and it is awesome, horror fans tend to not say this film was awesome because it may have been a remake. On the subject of remakes, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, The Fly, are remakes, and they are brilliant remakes at that. And don't get me wrong, I love original horror movies and I would like to see more original horror movies made. But the idea that all remakes are bad because of a few bad movies is ridiculous. And let's be completely honest with ourselves, there are some really bad original horror movies. That's probably subject for a different video. So on to the main topic of discussion here, and that is the Friday the 13th remake from 2009. And what a better time to do it. We're in October. I've dubbed it Shocktober, and apparently some mystery boxes have nicked my Shocktober. So let's start. This movie has been unfairly bashed, criticised for the last several years. My opinion about this particular remake may be unpopular, but it's my opinion. Everyone has an opinion, so chill out, take a step back from the keyboard, let me explain. This remake, I think, is actually better than a lot of the original Friday the 13th movies. Yep, bye-bye, that's half of you just switched off. This movie is actually very true to the original franchise, and it delivers everything that the best or the better of the movies in this franchise delivers, because I'm predominantly a Halloween fan and a Freddy Krueger fan, and I can see that there are trash movies in those, but overall I like those movies. Friday the 13th, a very hit and miss for me. So not only does this movie pick highlights of the franchise, it cuts out all the crap. There was plenty of crap in this franchise. I mean, Space Jason, or Uber Jason as he was dubbed. Oof. Jason not even being in his own movies because it happened on 3 separate occasions. You know, Jason is the hockey mask wearing murderer, and he's not in 3 of his own films. It does seem that every horror fan on the planet loves and embraces the original movies, and almost all of the people that love those original movies hate this movie. Now, I grew up in the 80s, so the original Friday the 13th films I grew up watching. Don't get why people hate this one so much, and I'm pretty sure the main argument is, it's a remake. Yeah, some remakes are garbage. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake was fucking awful. It was abysmal, and they turned Freddy Krueger into a nonce. You could have hinted at it and been far more scary than outright calling him a paedophile. Friday the 13th 2009 is far from that level of incompetence, where they understand the character. If this movie had been retitled or titled something different, Friday the 13th Part 11, would it have garnered the same hate as it does as a remake? And I highly doubt it. And let's be honest, if you're looking at a horror franchise you watched as a kid, then you probably think that original franchise is a masterpiece. I did. And then you rewatch and you get to A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child, or Halloween 5. Oof. Or Halloween 6, or Halloween Resurrection, or Freddy's Dead. But as fans, we forgive those travesties of the later movies because of nostalgia, and we can almost laugh at them and say, yeah, they're good because they're bad, except Freddy's dead, fuck Freddy's dead. Fans will complain about this movie, or this remake, for the exact same things that they forgive in the classics. So, let's prove my point with some Friday the 13th remake complaints. Now, these are complaints I've genuinely taken off a website. Jason runs in the remake. Jason never ran. Really? Idiot. I've rewatched the franchise, and in the early installments, Jason fucking runs. It is true that the zombified Jason, you know, the Kane Hodder Jason, was a slow stalker, more akin to Michael Myers. But there have been several points through the original franchise where Jason ran. Perfectly acceptable in the 80s, but not in a remake. Point number 2. Jason kidnaps one of the girls rather than killing her. Jason would never do that! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Did that person watch Friday the 13th Part 2? I remember the end of Part 2. Virginie puts on Mrs. Voorhees' sweater and almost convinces Jason that she is his mother. Now, you remember the neat little trick that she pulled acting as his mother? Almost worked, and Jason bought into it until he saw his mother's severed head behind Ginny. He even lowers his weapon, and it's only when he sees that severed head does Jason realise he's been played. I mean, Jason's not the most clever of the killers. If he hadn't seen that head, you know, Ginny had done the sensible thing and chucked it out, would he have been convinced his mother had been reincarnated, and then when she tried to escape, chain her in his little dungeon? I think he would have. And guess what? If he had, that would have been exactly what was done in this remake. And people complain about it. So Jason keeping Whitney alive in the remake because she looks like his mother is in keeping with the character. It's faithful to the original character. It is the exact same way he acted in the original sequel. So 2-0 bitches. Number 3. How the hell is this a remake? Jason wasn't even in the original film. Well done, you successfully remembered the first movie. But have you remembered how implausible this great reveal was? There's an old deer running around in a sweater with a fucking kitchen knife, and the teenager's reaction is pure terror. As in, they acted like there was a 6-foot monster in front of them, not a little old deer with a fucking knife. You know, she was not a 6-foot monster wielding a machete. She was an old woman, and she was quite easily dispatched at the end of the film because she had no supernatural abilities and she was an old woman. Now, whether you like it or not, the ending of that movie where Mrs. Voorhees is revealed was a twist for the sake of a twist. In a horror movie, to give the movie some substance, it was tacked on. Because that first movie, go and watch it again, it looks bad. It's not shot very well, and there's nothing to help you piece together that Mrs. Voorhees is the killer at the end. There's no hints throughout the movie. You can't pull, oh yeah, when you go back, yeah, you can tell. There was none of that. It was literally just thrown on the end. You can watch the movie 10 times and there's very, very little in clues as to who the killer is other than Jason Voorhees. The remake condenses this 1 hour and 30 minutes of implausible plot into a 7 or 8 minute intro shot in black and white, and yeah, it worked. Chopping this movie down, the first movie down, just into that intro segment, for me worked. They got rid of all the bumps, all the filler, all the people acting like they were terrified of an old deer, and just having the reveal early on. So there's the 3 arguments, and I'm claiming 3-0 because it's my video. So remakes are often torn apart for one of 2 things: not straying far enough away from the original movie or movies, or straying too far from them. So you're damned either way, if you do or you don't. A huge complaint about this movie was that Jason had built an underground lair / tunnel system for himself. Why is this hated? It explains how he can just pop up behind his prey, how he can always find his prey because of the tripwires with bells that alert him to where people are. He's built traps, trap doors, so he can pop up and hunt people. And this is an explanation as to how Jason appears to be supernatural when he's not dead yet. That's good storytelling. That's good script writing. That's a good idea. And it may have been hinted at in the original movies if you watch them again. And I prefer that this horror movie has a bit of sense to it. So bye-bye the rest of the viewers now, because I've just slated the first 2 movies of that franchise. How dare a horror icon have some validity to them killing, and how the filmmakers made a common sense approach as to how to get Jason to his prey easily, quickly, without seeming stupid. Apparently that wasn't true to the character, because we never saw Jason living in an underground lair in the past. Where was his mother's head cap? Anyway, audiences refuse to accept that Jason lives in this underground lair. So what do you want? A remake that doesn't bring anything new to the table, like the Psycho remake, which is lambasted, and rightly so, because it is a shot-for-shot remake of the original. They could have just re-released the original in colour. Or do you want a movie that introduces new ideas and makes sense of plot elements that never made sense in the originals? Because at this point, Jason is not supernatural. He is an overgrown, deformed lad that's on a killing spree because he's seen his mother beheaded. Fair play. So I'm all up for a remake that brings new ideas to the table, as long as it's faithful to the character. I like the idea of Jason building an underground system and a tunnel, layers, all the rest of it. It makes sense, and it explained what he was doing in between the visits of teenagers to the camp. He's hunting and killing animals, I imagine, to eat and being. And while he's doing this, he's got a home. He's not just hibernating in between kills like he would in the other movies, where he inexplicably disappears for 10 years. It shows him setting up a home system. And no, he never did that in the other movies. Or did he? And those older movies just didn't explain it. Possibly. Either way, the explanation of Jason's living conditions and the tunnel system makes sense. Or maybe it's just me that buys the fact that over the years he's rigged up a home for himself, fitted with traps and devices for his protection and for hunting his prey. Then there's Derek Mears' portrayal of Jason in this film. Derek Mears also played Swamp Thing in the Swamp Thing TV show, which is also worth a watch. And it's awesome. The character looks and comes off far more menacing and scary than ever before. He's a big guy.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What is this? No! 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 No!
Although Mia's performance is the only thing that everyone praises about this movie, I'll go one step further. Mia's is actually my favourite portrayal of Jason Voorhees. Jason looks awesome in this movie. When he runs... at the victim and the camera is looking from the victim's point of view, he looks and sounds powerful. His footsteps are heavy, and for a massive guy, he's a unit and he fucking shifts. Because of him looking and sounding so powerful, and he's actually catching teens because he has hunting skills and because he runs, and this common sense apparently ruins the movie. Fans also seem to hate that everyone in the town knows to leave Jason alone and not to trespass into his home. They know he's a killer and they want no part of it. That kind of makes sense. I wouldn't. And it adds, to me, it adds to the mythology, and again it's true to the character. Does anyone remember the creepy old man in the original franchise who warns the kids off going to Camp Blood, Crystal Lake? Jason, in his defence, kills trespassers after one cut his mother's head off. He doesn't go into the town to kill, he doesn't leave the camp to kill, apart from that one where he was on a fucking boat. But we'll ignore that because that was a trash movie. He's the town's monster, and as long as he remains in Camp Crystal Lake and leaves the town alone, the town leaves him alone. Nobody's bothering each other. It's these stupid kids that keep going out there for whatever reasons. I love the decision to essentially remake the first 3 movies all in this one movie. It brings everything up to speed, it trims all the fat, nodded at the original kills from the original movies, like in the tunnel system and the lair, the wheelchair from part 2 of the original franchise is up there. They just didn't see the need to show a re-showing of that kill, but it happened in this franchise as well. This movie would have been a great starting point for more sequels. The entire opening of the film is absolutely brilliant. The recreation of the final moments of the original film, followed by a Friday the 13th short film almost, that basically serves as a remake of part 2. We're into Hockey Mask Jason within 20 minutes instead of 3 movies, because Jason didn't wear the hockey mask that everyone knows him for. There it is. For 3 movies. He wasn't even in the first one. And the movie's all the better for it. Trimming the fat. I'm all up for that. We didn't have to spend 3/4 of a movie getting to know every single character that we wouldn't care about because they're all dead anyway. And speaking of these characters, this is where the line is drawn with fans. They didn't like the cast. Now, the lead character is played by Jared Padalecki of Supernatural fame. Anyway, he plays a character that we can actually feel sorry for, and has a reason why he's gone to Camp Crystal Lake. Because he's missing for his little sister, the girl that Jason is holding and has kidnapped. This character is relatable, he acts the part perfectly, and it's a protagonist you can root for. There's method, there's reason. The town are hiding the fact that his sister is either being slaughtered or missing, and he wants answers. Well, yeah, I'm all up for that. Then there's that guy. The guy that everybody hates. You know the one, the douchebag, the guy that grinds on everyone. And guess what, kids? You're supposed to hate him. He is written as a douchebag. He is written as a horrible person. He is written as a character you cheer for when he gets fucking kebabbed. And people are fucking moaning and bitching. He's such a douchebag, he's this, he's that, he's the other. That was the idea. The writers have done really, really well. They wanted to create a character that is hated by the audience, that really pisses them off, and you feel good when he dies. That happened. Everybody loves the fact that this guy was brutally murdered by Jason. And that's the point. And let's be honest, there's more dimension to these characters in their shorter screen time than almost any of the characters in the first 3 movies. I'm just going to outright say it. I do love Friday the 13th Part 4 because there are good characters in that movie. There are characters that you can grow attached to, and they show up in other movies. The kill scenes in this movie, they were fun and they got the job done. There was not a great deal of CGI, which is something I'm a massive fan of. I mean, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake special effects were fucking shocking. They looked worse than the stuff done in the 80s, the practical effects. Well, thank you. I'm glad that this movie went down the practical route. This is what we want from a horror movie. Practical effects look more real. Yes, there is some little bits of CGI in this movie, but not a huge amount. I love how some of the kills were homages to scenes from the original franchise, which I do quite enjoy. It's just not my favourite franchise, including the sleeping bag scene. Now, the original one, he stuffs a girl in a sleeping bag, he smashes her into a tree, she's dead. Awesome. This one, if they'd just done that all over again, it could have lost points. Instead, he boils her alive in a sleeping bag. He literally hangs her from a tree inside a sleeping bag and cooks her in front of her boyfriend while he's stuck in a bear trap. That's some good killing right there. So there are nods, but there's a machete to the face, yeah, but it's not a direct scene for scene make of part 2. They are nods to show respect to the original franchise while making something of their own. And to me, it is nice to see these little nods to the older movies in a newer movie. Friday the 13th, 2009 is a solid entry into the franchise, and it showed faith. It showed some faith to its origins. fuck me, the movie even looked better than 50% of the original franchise. This looked like a movie somebody loved when they made it. It's shot well, it looks crisp, and they use Jason really well. Honestly, I don't understand the hate that fans of this franchise have for this movie. Some of the complaints were generic annoying characters getting drunk, getting high, having sex, and then getting brutally murdered by Jason Voorhees at Camp Crystal Lake. Yeah, that is the entire point. That is what every movie before it has done before. Every slasher movie follows these tropes, and we love slasher movies for it. And people are moaning about the same thing in this, purely because it says remake. I mean, this isn't Pet Sematary remake bad. This is a good movie. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't like this movie, you're wrong. I'm just saying if you hate this movie just because it says remake in the title, or it's because it's a remake, that's stupid. Watch it again. It's on Netflix. Definitely worth a try, and try and have fun with it the way you did with the original franchise. It's worth a go, and maybe you'll change your mind. So, I've been the Bearded Geek. That was me defending Friday the 13th, 2009. There will not be a Nightmare on Elm Street remake defending of video because it was trash. So let me know in your comments down below. Did you enjoy this movie? Or did you hate this movie? And why did you hate it? Is it because you loved the original franchise, or do you just not think any of the Friday the 13th films are any good? Because I could understand that. As I said, Friday the 13th is not my franchise. I think Halloween would be my franchise. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you again soon for another review or an unboxing. Goodbye.